Well, interestingly enough, when I was a student at St. Olaf College in my undergraduate work, I was invited by one of the camp directors from the YMCA to go to George Williams College for a leadership weekend. And so that would have been in about 1963 or so. And so we went to 53rd and Drexel and stayed there, and we were part of the program for an extended weekend or so. So that was my first introduction. Then when I was in the Peace Corps in Venezuela, I knew that I wanted to continue my social work education in some way or another. And so I applied at George Williams for the one-year group work program. And I was accepted to that program. And then when I got on campus, then I found out that they had done away with that program, and they had the two-year MSW program. And so I stayed at George Williams for those 2 years. And I graduated in 1968. Well, the most special thing was that my wife and I were married during the time that I was there. Now, we knew each other before because we were classmates at St. Olaf College. And so then I went into the Peace Corps and then came back to Chicago. And so we were married at that time. In the middle of when was it? In the middle of my 2 years. And so in 1967, we were married. There were many memorable things. Two of the things were that I did my field placement first year at the BBR Youth Center in downtown Chicago, and it was just during the time of the riots on Roosevelt Avenue, and so that was very interesting. Of course, I was in an all-black youth center at that time, and so it was very interesting. And I had a yellow Opel, and I used to park right out in front of the BBR Youth Center. And the gang, it was the Vice Lords at that time that were in that particular neighborhood, and they said, "We will take care of your car. Always park right there." So that's where I always parked, and so we got along very, very well. Yeah. The second thing was that when the second year that I had my field placement, I was at the Oak Park River Forest Family Service. And that was very interesting, and that was at the time when I think that I got most interested in being a social worker and being with the MSW, or the Master of Social Work program. And so it was there that I did family therapy and worked in the Oak Park River Forest YMCA, and in marriage counseling at the time. But then we were married, and that was very interesting because for the first part of the year, I was a single person working with a married group, and then we got married, and so then that added credibility, I think, to the group that I worked with. Well, it was very interesting for me because I had been, it was my graduate school is when I was at George Williams, and so I had done my undergraduate work in Minnesota, and and then I did my Peace Corps in rural Venezuela, and so I had a variety of those kinds of experiences, but I didn't have the kind of experience that George Williams offered to me in working in the inner city and working with that kind of diversity. I had, of course, worked with a lot of diversity before, but not in that particular way. And also, my field placement supervisors were extremely helpful in helping me understand how to do social work in a variety of settings. Well, one of the things I didn't anticipate is that although we were told that in our classes at George Williams, but I didn't anticipate that upon graduation and getting an MSW, that mostly I would be in administration, and that's one of the things that I was in the entire time that I was working was in administration and supervision. And both of those things, I think, were things that I learned well at George Williams, and were very supportive, very helpful. George Williams, in the experience that I had, of course, is when it was a smaller college at in Downers Grove, and we were very specialized in the kind of things that we did, and it helped prepare me, as well as many of the other students, I think, for working in the larger world. And so even coming back to Minnesota and being a supervisor in the various places that I worked, it was good preparation. For the future, I think that it's very important for George Williams to continue to build those foundations, because no matter what you go into, it's the foundations that you experience there on campus. And as it says in the legacy statement, it talks about building on the history of what George Williams has been, and bringing that into the future as to where it is now, and the kind of work that needs to be done. So, you know, the campus has changed so much since I was there. Of course, I was in Downers Grove. My first experience was at 53rd and Drexel, and then at Downers Grove, at that campus. And I think I've only been at Lake Geneva a couple of times, but the work that's been done there, in reading about everything that has happened there, it's just marvelous to think that the legacy of George Williams College is continuing very alive and very well on the campus of Geneva.